I've already made videos for all of this, except I reformatted my SD card and I lost all that footage. Hey guys, welcome back to Revolution XRC. Today we're going to go over the next part of this MST CFX-WS DC1 build. As you can see, some of the stuff is already built. Now I plan to kind of go over the shocks and the axles and maybe the drive shafts in this part of the build. The reason that it's already built is because I've already made videos for all of this, except I reformatted my SD card and I lost all that footage. So I don't think I'm going to go and disassemble the shocks and redo that over again, but I will go over the manual and explain how I built these shocks. I will disassemble the axles and redo the axles for you guys, so I'll go ahead and do that. But we'll start off with the shocks, and kind of sucks that I have to redo all this footage again. I really wanted to have everything kind of step by step as well as building the shocks, but it's just not worth the mess to take apart the shocks and redo it all over again. So for the shocks, you'll need these following parts right here. In the first step, you pretty much just put the E-clip on with the piston. So I usually snap this bottom E-clip first onto the shaft, then I put the piston on, and then I use some pliers to snap this E-clip on top of the piston. In this step right here, they tell you to put the assembled piston shaft into the shock body. Now, and they also tell you to use oil on these O-rings right here. Now, instead of using this oil, what I like to use is Nolene SF3 grease. I use this on all my O-rings, so I usually cover these O-rings in this SF3 grease, and then I assemble this together here at the bottom first, and then I slide the shaft through, and that helps to prevent any damage to the O-rings when you use this SF3 grease. So that's what I do. Alright, now here we come to putting on the rod end to the drive shaft, or to the shock shaft. One useful tool are these Protect shock pliers. It's really easy to grab onto the shock shaft with these. So if I take this off right here, so to put on the rod ends, I use these shock pliers to hold onto the shaft, and then I put the rod end on. These are great, very, very handy, and you don't have to worry about damaging your shafts. And also right here with these pivot balls, when you're putting them in, you can just lay the pivot ball onto this thing right here on the shock shaft, or on the shock pliers, and just squeeze the pivot ball in to the rod end. So really handy tool here. I'll put a link to this in the description below. I'll also put a link to this in the description below. Just some handy tools for building shocks. Let's put this spring back on. Yeah, really bummed that I lost all that footage and I don't get to show you guys the build process of these. But basically, that's all you do. When you're filling up shock coil, fill it up to the top, let all the air bubbles out, and then when you're ready to close it up, compress the shock all the way up while you're sealing off the top. And that's just so it's a low pressure setup. Right there. And last but not least, just make 4 of them. So that about covers it for the shock section. If you really want to see a more detailed process of building these shocks, check out some of my other build series. I do have other types of shocks in there, but it's relatively all the same concept. So, you know, I guess the Enduro build series is a good one. I build the Enduro shocks in those. So just take a look at that. But other than that, if you've built shocks before, it should be pretty straightforward, nothing special. Oh, and for the shocks, you'll need parts bag 6. Fortunately, I don't have bag 6 anymore because I threw that away. So, we'll go ahead and move on to the axles. I'll disassemble the axles just so I can rebuild them for you guys to see, and we'll be right back. For the axles, you'll need parts bags 7, 8, and 9. For step 1 of the axles, you'll need these following parts. You'll need this bearing right here, this pinion gear, the pinion gear shaft, and this small E-clip. Now you'll need to make 2 of them. So at the end of step 1, you'll have 2 of these, and that completes step 1. Now for step 2, you'll need these following parts. You'll also need the grease of your choice. The kit comes with black grease. I like to use Versachem brake caliper grease. I'll put a link to this in the description below. Now since I've already built these axles, disassembled them, and I'm reassembling them for you, I've already got grease on here. Don't know if you can see it, but there is grease on there already. And that completes step 2. For step 3 of the front axle, you'll need the following. Six screws right here in total. And don't over tighten these, because if you do, you could cause some binding. Just tighten them enough to make sure that you still have smooth ring and pinion action. And that completes step 3. For step 4, you'll need the following: 2 M3x18s and 2 M3 lock nuts. That completes step 4. For step 5, you will need the following parts. Now, there is a specific way that you need to build these. It's going to be different between the right CVD and the left CVD. And on top of that, these are kind of strange CVDs because they don't actually have like a little, usually a little retainer in there for this pin. The pin just goes directly into this CVD. So we'll see how that works out. I don't really like the design, but that's how it is. So first thing you'll want to do, now here's the part that's kind of different about these CVDs. You'll notice that this retaining ring has a hook there. Now with the wheel nut shaft facing away from you, on the right CVD you want the hook on the right side. On the left CVD you want the hook on the left side. So for the right CVD axle with the hook on the right side here, the hook is on the right side. This will be my right side. Go ahead and attach that. Okay. Now on the left one, you want the hook on the left side. So the hook is on the left side. And we'll put that on. Not sure why it makes a difference, but that's just the way they have it. So I'll just follow it. There. Oh. And there we have it. That completes step 5. For step 6, you'll just need these following parts. Just the addition of these 2 bearings. I'm going to insert the bearings into the axle housing first. And take the CVD with the hook on the right side and put it on the passenger side. And the CVD axle with the hook on the left side, driver's side. That completes step 6. Now for step 7, you'll need these following parts: 4 bearings and these kingpin screws. These kingpin screws are really strange. I don't know why, but MST decided to make these Phillips screws where everything else is a hex screw. So these kingpin screws are Phillips screws. Also with these knuckles, you'll notice that there's an A and a B. So you can see that. It says A right there. And this one says B. The B is the driver's side, and the A is the passenger side. So let's go ahead and assemble these. Knuckle A. Knuckle B. Alright, and that completes step 7. For step 8, you'll need these servo mounts and two M3x10s. Now these should have a A and a B on them somewhere. If they don't, it's alright. It's pretty easy to figure out. I guess not. But anyway, I'm going to put one on this side. And another on this side. That completes step 8. For step 9, you'll be putting together the drag link. You can use a servo horn for your choice. I don't have an extra one right now, so I'm just using the stock plastic one. M3 lock nut and an M3x16. Now this one, you'll want the link having one facing away and this top one facing up. Put the screw in from the back side and through the back side of the servo horn. And secure on the side with M3 lock nut. Once again, I usually use a metal servo horn, but I don't have any on hand. So there's a drag link for you, and that's complete step 9. For step 10, you'll need the following: 5 M3x10 screws for these washers, and also a servo of your choice. This happens to be the only servo I have on hand right now. It's one of the DS Servo 20 kg ones. Good bargain if you're just looking for something that'll work, and that it does. And that completes step 10. For step 11, you'll need the following: this M3x14, M3x20, 2 M3 lock nuts, and these 2 spacers. So M320 on the driver's side. And that completes step 11. For step 12, you'll need the following parts right here. Once again, Since I've already built this axle, these have already been greased. I just lost the footage, so I just took it apart and now I'm putting it back together again for you guys. So I did use Versachem brake caliper grease on these gears, and there's a link to that in the description below. And that completes step 12. You'll need the following for step 13: the diff cover and the 6 small screws that are needed to attach it. And that completes step 13. For step 14, you'll need the following: these 2 bearings and these 4 and 3x6 screws. And these screws are just to retain the bearing. And that completes step 14. For step 15, you'll need the following: 2 M3x18s and 2 M3 lock nuts. And that completes step 15. And that completes this part of the build series for this MST CFX-WS DC1 build. The shocks, which I didn't actually build but kind of explain how I went about it, and the front and rear axles. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell for the next part of this MST CFX-WS DC1 build series. Thanks for watching.